my friend Aubrey. We are here to talk about grammar for IELTS. And, I'm pretty proud of us that we can make grammar interesting.
Yes, we promise we will make this interesting. This is extremely useful grammar for the IELTS exam, but it's still going to be a very fun episode. So don't tune out. And you guys are super lucky because Jessica just finished writing a textbook, a chapter about these relative
Yep.
pronouns. So you guys get this little benefit because it's top of mind for her, right?
I was really excited actually when I saw this task 2 essay mistake that you sent with the relative pronoun mistake, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, perfect." I like literally just wrote like 3 pages yesterday about relative pronouns for this other textbook project. So I was like, "Oh my god, easy, perfect, love it." Okay. So let's get into it. So today guys, we're going to share with you a recent student mistake in a task 2 essay with a relative pronoun and explain the issue because we know that this is such a common mistake, guys. And if you want a 7 or higher on grammar, you have to get these relative pronouns correct.
Exactly right. And we do see this error quite often in
Yeah.
writing, especially writing task 2, but we also hear it in IELTS speaking. So
Yep.
this is definitely one that once you're aware of it, it's really not that difficult. It's something you'll be able to quickly change, start noticing to affect your grammar scores. So this is one thing that's worth spending a few minutes listening to this podcast today to up level your grammar.
Definitely, because it is hard to read all of the rules for all of the relative pronouns and then be able to just automatically use them. You can't do that, right? So that's why we're breaking it down today, guys. We are only going to talk about who, that, and which. You just need to perfect like 1 or 2 things at a time, and then you move on to the next thing. So, let's get into this mistake. Aubrey, can you read that sentence? And guys, listen and see if you can catch the mistake here, okay?
Yeah, so this was from a task 2 essay. The sentence was, however, my perspective is that those countries who obtain more resources have to bear higher responsibilities. Ooh, I wonder if you caught the mistake.
This is like I could actually imagine a native speaker making this
Oh, yeah,
mistake maybe because you think like countries are full of people. I'm talking about the people. So like I have empathy for this mistake. It
absolutely.
does like
Easy to
make
make.
sense.
Hmm.
Totally. But guys, only use who if you're talking about a person or a group of people. And like a country isn't just a group of people. A country is the land, the resources, you know what I mean? So it doesn't work here. We can't use who in that sentence.
Right. So instead, you would need which, right? Those countries which obtain more resources. And we're going to go through today and give you some great examples for IELTS answers of when you would need to use who, which, or what is the third
That.
one? That.
That.
Yes. Scroll down. Jessica wrote that part. Oh, good. That. Super useful.
Okay, all right. So let's first talk about who. So again, guys, the rule here, remember, just try and keep it simple. So only use who when you are adding a detail because these are relative pronouns. We use relative pronouns to add details about nouns in sentences. And guys, if you've been listening to this podcast, that if you want a good score on IELTS, you must add details. So relative pronouns, it's a no-brainer. You have to learn these guys because they improve your grammar score and they improve the fluency score, the task score because they allow you to add specific information. So, who? We use this to add a detail about a person or a group of people in a sentence. So, for example, speaking part 2, describe a person you respect. What can we say?
You might say, my mother, who has always been there for me, is just the best. And because this is non defining, it's not necessary in the sentence. You separate it with commas.
Right. And so, yes, guys, we know this is a speaking example, but we are trying to teach you as much as we can in a short amount of time. So, if you're writing this sentence, right, then you have to have commas around that clause because it is non defining, which means it is not necessary to understand who we're talking about. So, we can say, my mother is just the best, but we want to add some extra detail. So, my mother, who has always been there for me is just the best, right? If we take that clause out, we still know what mother you're talking about. You know what I mean? So let's contrast that with this second example, guys, and you'll really understand this idea of defining and non defining. Aubrey?
Yeah, so this one is defining. There would be no commas. And the answer would be the person who I respect the most is my mom, actually. And it'd be a comma
All
before
right.
actually, but not before who. You need that to find out who you're talking about. You can't remove that who I respect the most.
Exactly, exactly. Because if you just say, if we remove that and say the person is my mom, that
Like
like
what?
totally changes the sentence. I'm like,
Right.
what person? What are you even talking about right now? So again, like this is necessary information. So we don't have commas around the clause. The person who I respect the most is my mom. So what a great introduction sentence for that speaking part two answer.
And here's a quick example for speaking part one. You might be asked,
Nice.
what do you do on the weekend? You could say, most of the time I go out with my friends who sometimes have to be convinced. If they give me
Mhm.
too much grief, we usually just stay in and watch a movie.
Oh my gosh. Okay, bonus vocab. If they give me too much grief. That's just like if they complain a lot.
Yes, I say this to my kids a lot. Stop giving me grief. Stop complaining.
It's so funny because like guys, if you look up grief in the dictionary, literally it's like mourning. It's like great sadness because you lost something. You know what I
Right.
mean? Grief is like a huge emotion. And so again, like this is just another way we love to exaggerate and have fun in English. If you're just like, oh, my kids are giving me grief. My boss has given me grief, you know?
So fun.
All right, awesome. So let's move in to which. Now, which is a relative pronoun. What are the rules here? When do we use it?
Yeah, so this we're using to describe a place, a country, like in that example from the task two, pretty much anything except people or groups of people, then we'll say which. And it's always non defining, so you'll always need that comma.
I mean, I would choose who to describe to add information about people, but honestly, it's not wrong to say like the person which has inspired me the most. You know what I mean? Like that is also acceptable, but it's better to use who when you're describing people for sure.
That's a really
So,
good point. It's the other way that's really a no no to ever
right.
have a person and say which. You have to have who there, but the other way around is acceptable.
Yeah, totally. So, which is the relative pronoun that is non defining? So, we're always going to use commas around it. It's always going to introduce a detail, which is not necessary to the sentence, but it's nice to know.
Right, exactly.
All right. So, for example, guys, a speaking part three question. What do you think can be done to improve the education system in your country?
And I might say schools, comma, which never have enough funding, comma, should be supported by the government in order to improve programs.
Perfect. I love it. So what a great complex structure, guys. Um, you know that you need a few complex sentences to get a good grammar score. So, really, guys, just learn a few complex structures perfectly.
Mm.
Relative pronouns are a must. They're easy to use, they're easy to learn the rules. We use them all the time. So, if you're reading a lot, you are seeing them a lot, which makes it easier to use. You know what I mean? Because you're surrounded with tons of examples. So, definitely, guys, learn these rules today. Okay. Um, what about if the part three question is like, or even a task two question, is crime a problem in your country?
Yeah, we could answer and say police, which are quite prevalent where I live, are effective in keeping crime rates down. So instead of just saying there are plenty of police, you're just boosting the complex sentence, a higher level way of speaking. This would be very impressive to the examiner.
For sure. And bonus vocab, prevalent. So that's an adjective. What does prevalent mean?
Yeah, common. You'll see them quite a bit, right? So if you say
Yeah,
police are prevalent, that means you see them a lot when you're out and about. They're
totally.
visible.
I like the idea of learning this in conjunction with ubiquitous as an
Ooh,
adjective
yeah.
because ubiquitous is like one step higher, you know? Ubiquitous is like everywhere, everywhere you look, and prevalent is just like a little bit less than ubiquitous,
Yes, ubiquitous
right?
might be a little much for police. If police were ubiquitous, I'd be like, "Do I need to be spending this kind of tax money for a cop on every corner?" Prevalent
That would
is
be
good.
like a military
Yeah,
state. Like
exactly, right? Too
that's
much.
like an apocalyptic future RoboCop
Yes,
thing. Like
exactly.
yeah,
We have a police
that's
state, I feel
extreme.
like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So finally, guys, last thing today, that as a relative pronoun. It is only used for defining clauses, which means we don't use commas around that clause, and it is necessary to understand the sentence. It is necessary to understand what this noun is that you're describing, right? So for example, um, I just had a class yesterday with a student that wrote about this task two question. What are the causes of disrespectful student behavior in schools? So, of course, it was a longer task two question, but that was part of it. And here is an example sentence with that. You could say, the chief reason that pupils are exhibiting disappointing attitudes is the lack of time they have with their parents, who should be taking on the responsibility of ethical
I
education.
see what you did
Um,
there. That was
that
amazing. You added who. You see, with both of them in the sentence, bam, amazing grammar.
I was pretty excited about that. So just as a side note, guys, this like the beginning of this, the chief reason that blah blah blah, like this is literally a sentence from a three keys template. So not only do the three keys IELTS essay templates tell you what linking words to use, what ideas go where in the essay, it's a whole map, but it also has this bonus of like making sure you do have some complex structures because that is part of the template sentences, you know? So just wanted to say another bonus for three keys essay templates. Guys, if you're curious about the three keys IELTS online course, it now comes with lifetime access and personalized feedback for every student in speaking and writing. So check that out, guys. Go to allearsenglish.com/keys. That's KEYS and check that out.
Awesome.
All right. Awesome. What a great grammar episode today.
Yes, absolutely, guys. Practice these in speaking answers and when you're writing practice essays so that they're super easy and quick on test day.
Awesome. And check out Three Keys IELTS, our online course, guys. Guaranteed to increase your IELTS score. allearsenglish.com/KEYS. All right. Awesome. Thanks, Aubrey.
See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.